Okay, so what I'm going to try and do today is introduce you to some basic Kichwa words and phrases that I think will come in handy while we're down in Ecuador with Rocky Vista. Now, the purpose is not to try and become a fluent Kichwa speaker who can complete an entire patient visit in Kichwa. We're just going to learn some simple, easy words and phrases that can help you make a patient feel a little more comfortable, a little more understood if you can just say a couple of basic words or phrases in their native tongue. Sometimes they're apprehensive about meeting a doctor from a different country who speaks a different language, so to hear even just one or two familiar words can really make a big difference for these patients and is a great way to grow your cultural competence. So what I've done here is I've compiled a list of English words and phrases that I think are sort of your basic essentials. Excuse me. So what I want to do today is a quick basic introduction to some simple, useful Kichwa words and phrases that I think will come in handy while we're down in Ecuador with Rocky Vista. Now, the purpose of this video is not to try and make you a fluent Kichwa speaker who can complete an entire patient visit in Kichwa. It's just handy to know some basic words and phrases that can help a Kichwa speaking patient feel a little bit more comfortable. Sometimes they're apprehensive about meeting a doctor from a different country who speaks a different language. So a word or two in their native tongue can really make a patient feel a lot more comfortable and a lot more welcomed and understood. So what I've done is I've compiled a list of some essential, basic English words and phrases that I think will come in handy with a Kichwa translation as well as rudimentary phonetic spelling underneath. And then there's also a column with the equivalent Spanish word or phrase. Now, I did this partly because some of us speak English and Spanish, so it's nice to see all three of those together, but also because Kichwa is an informal dialect. And when Spanish became the predominant language in Ecuador, a lot of the Kichwa language was adapted, especially the spelling and the pronunciation. And so knowing Spanish actually makes Kichwa a little bit easier to speak and understand. So first, a quick explanation. Kichwa is, again, the native dialect of Ecuador. A lot of people are more familiar with Quechua, which is sort of the parent dialect that Kichwa is based on. Kichwa is specific to northern Ecuador, whereas Quechua is found in Colombia, Peru, Ecuador. Also, you'll see Kichwa spelled with a K or with a QU, and then here with a U instead of a W. The Quichua is more of a Spanish-based spelling. With the K, it's the traditional original Kichwa spelling, so most of the time you'll see Kichwa speakers spell it this way. All right, all of that aside, let's get started. So to say yes, you would say Ari. Not quite as hard of an R as in English, almost like a D. Ari. Then no is mana, kind of like manna from heaven. Mana. Hello is imanaya or imanaisha, kind of like how Argentinian Spanish speakers oftentimes turn the double L into a sh instead of a ya. Many Kichwa speakers do that as well. So this can be pronounced either imanaya or imanaisha. So imanaya. Good morning is alipuncha or alipunya, depending on how you want to do the double L. But notice Ali is spelled with two L's, but only pronounced as if there were one L. This is just one of those quirks of Kichwa, since it's an informal language. Many Kichwa speakers spell it with two L's, but it's only pronounced like there's one L. Ali punya, or punsha. Good afternoon, Ali chishi. Ali chishi. Good evening, Ali tuta. Ali tuta. Goodbye, awai. Not away, awai. My name is Nukaka, your name, Mikani. So I would say Nukaka Parker Mikani. What is your name? Ima Shotita Kangi. Again, depending on the double L. Ima Shotita Kangi. I am from Nuka Kani. Just like the Spanish Nye, this is like an NY sort of sound. Nuka Kani. So I would say, Nuka Kani, Estados Unidos. Where are you from? Maimandata Kangi. Maimandata Kangi. How are you? Imanaya, which is the exact same word as hello. I asked a native Kichwa speaker if there's a difference, if they mean the same thing, and he said Kichwa doesn't have a formal official word or phrase for how are you. So when you say hello, Imanaya, you are also saying how are you. I'm great. Sumakmi kani. Sumakmi kani. Please. Por Dios, which is very similar to the Spanish por favor. I think this is an adaptation where they've just substituted favor for Dios, which is Spanish for God. And thank you is pagi. Pagi. This is a super useful one. I would say put that at the top of your list so that at the end of a visit you can say pagi, awai. Thank you, goodbye. All right. You're welcome. Ari, ari, ari. Which, if you're paying attention, is yes 3 times. Again, my native Kichwa speaking friend said there's not a formal, unique term for you're welcome. They just sort of say, yeah. So, ari, ari, ari. I'm sorry, paskapui. Paskapui. Excuse me, panpachai. Panpachai. Now this one's tougher. I don't speak Kichwa well. Naali parlanichu Kichwata. You'll have to practice this one, but I think it's useful in case you say, hi, how are you? And your patient gets excited and thinks, oh my goodness, they speak Kichwa, and they start going crazy talking in Kichwa to you, and you're like, oh boy, I don't know what's happening. If you practice this one, then you can say to them, I don't speak Kichwa very well, and then you can pass it off to your translator. So, Naali parlanichu Kichwata. Naali parlanichu Kichwata. Do you speak Spanish? Also a tougher one, but if you don't have a Kichwa translator with you, this is a great way to see if they at least speak Spanish. It'll definitely be easier to find a Spanish translator if you can't get a Kichwa translator. So, parlangichu españolta. Parlangichu españolta. Españolta is Spanish, español. So if you can't remember this, you can at least say españolta, and they'll understand you're saying, do you speak Spanish? Do you need help? Now, this word, menindingechu, is a tough one. I even trip over it. So at least if you can say ayudata, that's help. But the full phrase is menintingechu ayudata or menishtingechu ayudata. Again, that double L has sort of two pronunciations. So at the very least, I would learn how to say ayudata in case you need to assess if someone is in need of help. In that same vein, emergency is aporochu kangi. Aporochu kangi. Aporochu is emergency. So at the minimum, I would be able to say ayudata and aporochu to assess, in an acute situation, is this an emergency? Do you need help? A different kind of emergency, but always a word you've got to learn in the language of whatever country you're visiting, is bathroom. Armani. Armani. Bathrooms can be kind of hard to find in Ecuador, so that one may actually come in handy. Now, this is a bit of a tough one as well. Student doctor. But I figured we should put it in here in case you're out there trying to help people and somebody's asking, who are you? What are you doing? Why are you asking me if this is an emergency and I need help? So you can say, I'm a student doctor. Hanbi manda yachahumki. Hanbi manda yachahumki. Hanbi manda yachahumki. And then, of course, you've got to always know how to count to 10 in any language you're learning, even just so you can tell people, I know how to count to 10 in Kichwa. And they'll say, what's Kichwa? So, 1, shuk. 2, ishkai. 3, kimsa. 4, chusku. 5, pichka. 6, sukta. 7, kanchis. 8, pusak. 9, iskun. 10, chunka. And there you have it. These are some of the more basic, easy, essential Kichwa words and phrases that you can use as a student doctor, mostly to just make your patient feel a little more comfortable, in a bit less of a foreign space. Could come in handy if you're trying to acutely assess an emergency and maybe there's not time to find a Kichwa translator. All in all, the Ecuadorian people are awesome, super friendly, really patient. They're going to appreciate that you've even made an effort to learn some Kichwa. Nobody's going to get upset if you mispronounce something. So I would definitely recommend trying to learn even just, hello, how are you, thank you, and, some of those important ones like emergency. And all in all, I think this is going to be a great experience, and I think the Ecuadorian people are going to be very excited to see you guys try some Kichwa with them. So let me know if you have any questions, if any of this doesn't make sense, if my rudimentary phonetic spelling is strange, just let me know, and I'll give you some pointers. So thanks for watching.